I recently answered a viewer comment about judgment with this old saying: good judgment comes from experience, experience comes from bad judgment. This saying is variously attributed to Will Rogers, Mark Twain, and even a Dr. Kerr White. No matter who came up with it, it applies 100% to hiking. Today we'll go over 3 instances where my current good judgment was gained through experience, and we'll see what we can learn from my mistakes. I still make them. I think if pressed, even the most experienced hiker will admit to making mistakes on occasion. In May of 2011, my son and I went hiking in the Grand Canyon. I was feeling a little off during the flight there, which was strange because I'm normally okay with flying. Our plan was to go through the South Kaibab National Forest on the Arizona Trail for about 24 miles, then enter the canyon at Grandview Point for another 36-mile hike across the plateau, down to Bright Angel Camp, and then out up the Bright Angel Trail the final day. I almost bypassed the National Forest part of the hike because something was clearly wrong with me, but we ended up sticking with the plan. Starting the first night, I developed some symptoms of queasiness, depression, and confusion. Some of these are common signs of dehydration and others not so much. We assumed it was dehydration, and my son spent the next 3 days ensuring I stayed hydrated. Another hiker helped us out but clearly thought we were in over our heads. By the time we got to Phantom Ranch on day 6, I was feeling much better, as if I had rehydrated successfully. But was it dehydration? It turns out, no, at least not only that. Through a series of investigation and events that I won't go into here, we finally got to the truth. I was suffering from withdrawal from a common prescription medication that many older patients are on that I hadn't bothered bringing. It was a long-term medication, and a week off it should have had no lasting impact. Even the prescribing doctor didn't expect withdrawal symptoms. The lesson: bring any prescriptions you're on with you. This is especially true for older hikers where disruption of physiology from withdrawal can occur and risks even worse outcomes. In 2019, I was hiking the Presidential Range in New Hampshire's White Mountains using the hut system to get through it. The popular Lake of the Clouds hut had no open reservations, so I had to go directly from the Mizpah Spring hut to the Madison Spring hut in a single day, about 12 miles. But the Presidential Range is not an ordinary stretch of trail. It's mostly rock hopping. For much of it, you go from cairn to cairn on a choose-your-own-adventure sort of hike. I also had the misfortune of perfect weather, mid-50s, clear sky, visibility of about 130 miles. The next day, after coming off the range, my legs were blistered, and before long, these second-degree burns were filled with fluids. After staying at the Carter hut, my hiking friend Crusher advised me, "You can't go camping like this, you'll get infections." So we hiked out the 19-mile Brook Trail back to where I was parked, and I drove to the local clinic for treatment. "Oh, you can't hike like that," they told me. Well, I'd come 14 miles like that. I was pretty convinced they were right. In 2024, when I climbed Mount Katahdin, I was above tree line for several hours, and this time I had SPF 100 with me, so I had no problems. In fact, I was able to help out another hiker. She was fair-skinned, red-headed, and susceptible to sunburn. We were at the peak by the famous Mount Katahdin sign, and I gave her some. Like I told my wife, easiest 20 bucks I ever made. Of course, I was joking. I'd never deny or charge another hiker for help like that. The lesson: even seemingly perfect conditions can be dangerous in the wrong circumstance. Fast forward to just a few months ago. As I reported in my John Muir trail hike, my rain suit wetted out in a Graupo storm. In the past, my rain suit at least kept my body heat in as long as I kept moving. In these conditions, it didn't, and before long I was shivering. The proper response would have been to get someplace dry, or set up my tent if necessary, and change clothes. I made it to the visitor center at Tuolumne Meadows in their wood stove, but it was too late by then. I had misjudged the situation. Fortunately, the Tuolumne Lodge had an available tent cabin and hot showers. An off-duty ranger gave us a ride over there, and it was everything I could do to stop her from seeing that I was shivering. But I was soon recovering. Had I been deep in the backwoods, such as farther south on the JMT, this would have been far worse. Again, I misjudged the weather and got lazy, always hoping that I would soon be out of the woods, so to speak. That I did get to safety was just happenstance. At my next opportunity, I acquired a poncho, but I kept my rain suit for layering on the colder nights there. The point of these is not just don't leave medications behind, use sunscreen, and stay dry. I always want broader lessons for these videos. The real lesson is bigger and more useful. It's about paying attention, thinking ahead, and treating the trail and your own body with respect. It's about realizing that your comfort and your health and even your life can hinge on the small choices you make while you're out there. It's especially true for older hikers. We're more vulnerable whether we admit it or not. Experience teaches us this. You may not get it until you're being bandaged up, shivering in damp clothes, or shaking from withdrawal in the middle of a desert. Once you do, you start to anticipate problems before they happen. you exercise a little more caution, have a little more humility, and hopefully a lot more common sense. So whether you're hiking the Presidential Range, the JMT, or just a local trail, remember this: the big lessons usually hide inside the small avoidable mistakes. Make the effort to see them and you'll hike smarter, safer, with way fewer stories about how badly things went wrong. I've talked about lessons learned the hard way, but sometimes experience teaches you to anticipate trouble before it happens. After one hike in Vermont with my son and our dog, my wife was coming to pick us up at the trailhead, which was on a steep and busy state highway. Trucks were barreling down constantly, and I realized that a left turn into the lot from her direction would be extremely dangerous. So I called her on the cell phone and I told her, when you see us, don't turn left. Keep going down the hill, find a safe place to turn around, and come back up for a safer approach so you can take a right turn. Minutes later, a driver ignored that same left turn risk and 2 cars ended up totaled, barely avoiding serious injury to the occupants. That's the difference between reacting and thinking ahead. The lesson tying these mishaps together? Experience teaches us not just what to pack, to wear, or avoid, but how to notice risks before they become problems. The trail and life rewards those who pay attention, anticipate, and act with foresight. If you appreciate this content, please like, share, subscribe, and comment on this or other topics you'd like me to cover. And if you haven't seen this video, I recommend you take a look at it now. Thanks for watching.